This this flight was coming in from London Heathrow. Yes, and I, I, I think it was clear air turbulence, CAT. So it was not detected on the pilot's radar. They couldn't detect it, so there was no warning. The aircraft suddenly hit the air pocket and it dropped, I think, a few thousand feet. Is it around 6,000 feet? If it's 6,000 feet, drop is about 1,800 over meters. That is very severe. I don't know how the passenger died, whether he was injured or he died of a heart attack. The news is still coming in, so we are not sure yet. But of course, 30 people were injured, including one or two cabin crew. I think the pilots did a very good job. This was unpredictable. It is known as acronym CAT, Clear Air Turbulence. So, as the name clear air turbulence, it means it's clear air, you can't even see it. So the pilots probably couldn't even warn the passenger. So it was unfortunate. It came suddenly and then the aircraft dropped 6,000 feet, I was told. Of course, 30 people were injured and one dead. This was just before, not very long before arrival into Singapore. First time somebody died on SQ flight because of air turbulence. I had this experience before when I was working as a flight attendant, but it wasn't that bad. I was preparing food in the galley and we were approaching from Hong Kong. We were coming into Singapore, flying over the South China Sea, and I think there was a monsoon at that time. The aircraft also hit some bad weather, also without warning, and it went down for about a few hundred feet. And I was thrown off and fell onto the floor, flat. But fortunately, I was not injured. I was quite young then, in my 20s. You know, today if I were to fall in the same manner, I think I probably break my bones and yeah. So I think the pilots did a very good job. Yeah. It was unfortunate. CAT, clear air turbulence, it could not be detected, it could not be predicted. I understand that CAT, clear air turbulence, was also caused by climate change. So it's more frequent nowadays that you get this sort of turbulence. So my advice is when you fly, it's good, even if the weather is okay, still fasten yourself in when you're seated. Yeah, fasten yourself. Don't use the seat belt. You never know when the air turbulence is going to hit. And if it does, it could be very severe. So far, Freddy, no other flights were involved. Only SQ221 from London. I don't know how the passenger died. There was one passenger who died. So far, we have not received any news. it could be the person died of a heart attack, but I saw the video and also pictures of a crew. One stewardess was bleeding from the nose and she was seated. Or it's a male passenger. I'm not sure how old, maybe it's an old fella, you know. He probably was traumatized. You know, it's no joke, if you're in the aircraft and suddenly it's dive down, drop a few thousand feet, wow, you could feel that you left your heart and your body above you. You just drop. Yeah. So it's a scary thing. I've experienced it before, but it wasn't that bad. Like I said, I fell onto the floor. And I wasn't even fastening because I was in the galley working. But if you are seated, it's better that you fasten yourself in, and then, if possible, don't have too many things on your table, a laptop and all this. I mean, if there's no turbulence, of course, usually the flight is all right. It is like 1 in a million type. Yeah, even if you're sleeping, you have to fasten in, whether business or first class or economy. You fasten yourself, the seat belt. Fasten loosely. It's safer. So if you are in the toilet and then this turbulence happen, don't run back to your seat. Just stay in the toilet. Of course, there's no seat belt, but just hold on to the railing or any support there. Don't open the door and then get out of the toilet and try to reach your seat, because in the process you might get injured, you see. Yes, good evening, Johan. So my advice is always have your seat belt fastened. Whether you're sleeping or you're awake. Of course, if you're in the toilets, then you don't have seat belts there. But be careful, if there's a turbulence, then stay in the toilet, don't come out immediately. Listen to the announcement. I think in this case, the pilots got no time to make the announcement, or rather they didn't detect the clear air turbulence, as the name, as it's called, clear air turbulence, CAT. It's clear air. It could not be seen on the radar. Okay, any questions? Luckily, only one died. It could have been more, because it was a very severe turbulence. I think the pilots, credit got to be given to the pilots who did a good job, and Boeing. The aircraft is the 777, the Boeing aircraft. The aircraft doesn't split or disintegrated. Imagine it's very heavy. You got 200 over passengers on board, plus all the equipment, the cargo. The aeroplane is heavily laden with all these human beings, cargoes, etc. And during a severe storm or turbulence, it may break, but so far, it doesn't. Will the plane crash if it goes through very bad turbulence? Yes. If it's an old plane, it might even break into two. Like the helicopter last week, a few days ago, last Sunday, yesterday or 2 days ago, the president of Iran, he and his foreign minister died in the helicopter crash. Those helicopters are Bell 212 helicopters, I think. If I'm not mistaken, it's 212. Those are American helicopters, but they were it was about 40 to 50 years old helicopter. So same thing, bad weather. But this one, the president of Iran was in a helicopter, but they went through a turbulence, but it was forecast. It's not clear air. The aircraft could have, the helicopter could have disintegrated, broke into a few pieces, because the turbulence could be very bad. Flying is quite a risky thing. I've been working for SIA for 35 years as a cabin crew. I flew a lot, but still I'm quite scared sometimes, to fly. Like now I'm retired, I do fly once or twice a year, but if possible, I avoid flying, even as passenger. I have a trainee, I had a trainee stewardess of mine. I trained her. She was in one of my classes. She flew for a few years, then she resigned and she started a business. And she was flying between Indonesia and Singapore. And you remember that Seal Air crash in the river Musi, or in Sumatra, in the year 1999, I think. I can't remember, but it was 20 over years ago. They say it's pilot suicide. The stewardess, Jean, her name, was a trainee of mine. She died on that flight 20-something years ago. And the husband said that, as a cabin crew, she did not face any danger, but as a passenger, she died in the crash. Yeah. There was much talk about, some of you may know about the Seal Air crash. Yes, my real tragedy. It could be a suicide, pilot suicide too. Yes, cool, you're right. Air turbulence, especially clear air, where you can't detect it, the pilots cannot detect it on the radar, the screen, no? They can't even see, because that's why it's called clear air. And this is more pronounced, more frequent now because of climate change. If you Google, you find out, go and Google clear air turbulence, or CAT. They will tell you. They'll tell you what happened about the air, how it is. It's technical, but because of climate change, it's more frequent.